I feel so bad for you if you live in Georgia.
You're not gonna know what's for sale at Taco Bell because there will be no commercials for anything other than those two candidates.
Why didn't we buy a TV station in Atlanta?
You know what? That's an investment call. You just buy TV stations right before elections, and then you just wait in these places to have runoffs. Louisiana's another one, and then you get an extra month of election ads.
Yeah, and then you just shut it off.
Yeah, you shut it off. Unplug it for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's good. I'm really sad that McDougal McMuffin lost.
Oh, shit. Yeah, wow. Does that end his political career?
I hope so.
Me too.
I hope so.
This race was designed for him. I mean, literally designed for him to win, and he still lost by. I think it's going to wind up being around 20 points. When it's all said and done.
That's remarkable.
So disingenuous too that he's an independent.
Oh, it's so bad.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
An independent that the Democrats happen to throw all kinds of millions to try to elect. Huh? What an independent! Wow. And what was he in 2016? A libertarian? And what will he be next time?
Right.
Charlie Crist?
He should run for governor of Florida next time.
Somebody's got to beat Charlie Crist's record. The only guy in Florida history to lose as a Republican, Democrat, and Independent. That's remarkable.
So embarrassing.
But I mean, we got Beto. He could still do it. We got Stacey Abrams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they could do it. So
what do you do with these candidates? What's the next step for a Beto O'Rourke after this? He's lost every race imaginable.
City council.
You think he just goes smaller?
Yeah, go after
I
city
mean,
council.
in the old days, the really old days when things really made sense. Leper Colony.
Leper Colony.
Oh,
okay.
okay. But he could be like.
I feel like, Stacey Abrams, despite the fact that she's a complete moron, will get a job at an Ivy League school.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like she will become a professor
Yes.
at an Ivy League school because
Yeah.
she's so intersectional. She'll get all of those benefits. Beto to me strikes me as like weekend MSNBC host.
I could see that.
Maybe weekend.
Yeah.
Not full time.
Not full
weekend.
No. He'll have a podcast.
I mean, but he's got his father-in-law he can continue to sponge off.
Yeah, he's got tons of money. He doesn't have to worry about that.
It's amazing how, Tanya said, what is Fetterman famous for? And I said, living with his mom and dad until he was, 40, 50?
No, he's 50.
50!
He was on their payroll at least until 50.
Incredible.
That is crazy.
Has anyone ever been given an easier path in life than John Fetterman?
And then he tries to be this blue-collar worker guy in Pennsylvania. He's never been one.
Never worked.
Never
really
worked.
had. I mean,
How can you be such a union guy when you've never been part of a union?
and no one even knew who he was when he became lieutenant governor. Like that
Right.
was a bizarre race that he squeaked in inexplicably. And then now in this race, I mean, the only thing that explains this to me is sympathy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they just felt
Maybe.
bad for him. A lot of people said a lot of nasty things about the guy. Maybe they just felt bad for him. Like
I think that's possible.
The same way you give a quarter to a homeless guy in the street. You just you feel bad. Maybe.
Why? Because he looked like young Frankenstein?
I mean, most homeless people look much healthier than John Fetterman, obviously.
Yeah.
But still, there's an element there where you're just like, hey, this poor guy went through a tough thing.
He's only got one hoodie.
Yeah, he's got one hoodie. He has to wear hoodies because of the goiter or whatever's going on with the neck. The guy looks like he's lived a really tough life. Now he hasn't, but I mean, it looks like it. Maybe
No,
they
he
just
does
felt bad.
look like a 40-year heroin user.
Right, like maybe they thought he was like getting out of prison and trying to recover and make something of his life.
No,
They're like, wow, look at this guy.
He's just probably at some point headed for prison, and he's ruining your life. So,
I mean, look, you do feel bad for his health ailments, which I guess, lately he's had some real problems. But, I mean, the guy has no accomplishments in his life. I mean, he's a giant zilch.
giant is a good word, too.
Yeah, it really
He's
is.
got really bad policies.
Yeah.
He's an extreme radical.
His wife is worse.
Maybe.
Yeah, his wife, she is.
But
And she'll probably
he's
wind
a
up
Bernie Sanders acolyte.
Yeah.
This is not a good pick. It's not a good fit for Pennsylvania at all.
Well, Pennsylvania, even if you didn't vote for him, you're going to get what Pennsylvania, I think, deserves. At least half of Pennsylvania deserves. You start messing with these with these people like this, you're just in for massive misery.
Well,
just
sadly,
massive.
so's the rest of the country because he's a U.S.
I
senator,
know.
not just a Pennsylvania
And
senator.
why is that, Stu? Oh, the progressives, right, Pat?
Yeah.
Yeah, the progressives did that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go to Fred in New York, line 3. Hello, Fred.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, the reason I called is I'm living here in New York. Earlier you had stated that to move out of New York, and that is my initial instinct was to move out of New York.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to stay. I have a grandson that lives here, and my daughter and son-in-law have really good jobs, so they would not follow myself and my wife any place that we would move to. So, yeah, I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to fight whichever way I can. Hopefully, politically, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm sure I'll be able to figure something out.
Sure. That's what a lot of Jewish people said in Germany.
Oh, man.
God.
I'm going to stay.
man.
No,
Oh,
I'm
wow, we
going to
got
stay.
that.
I'm going to stay. I
We
think...
almost got to the end of the show. Nice knowing him. No, look, I think there is something admirable about what he's saying there, and I
Yeah.
feel like it's not for everybody to move to a red state.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is. We do need people who are going to fight. There are school boards with children there that don't have a choice, and we need people fighting for them. That's true.
When things get, because his point was, and I'm sorry, Fred, I'm just joking with you, but when things do get economically bad, do you think that the people that are surrounding you are more apt to listen to you or less apt to listen to you? Do you think they become much more dependent on the state or less dependent on the state? You say your family won't move, and everybody has to make their own decisions. So please, Fred, forgive me. I'm not lecturing you by any stretch of the imagination. But my thought is, yeah, you could all put your eggs in one basket, or some of you can move so you have a landing pad for the rest of the family right before it gets really bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Before New Yorkers start eating each other.
Yes.
Which could happen.
What time is
before that happens?
Yeah, I mean, it could happen by lunchtime today. But
Look, you can make the argument that if people took that approach in New York, probably Zeldin wins.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can make the argument that if people didn't move, but I think you also have to everyone has to make their own, decision for their own family and what they think is right. And if you think it's right to sit there and fight in a tough environment, you got to do it.
I am a big believer in personal prophecy, that you have right, and you should absolutely claim it, to have the prophecy for your own family, to have the insight for your own family. And no one else has that. Yeah. You have that. Nobody else has that.
Virginia is a good example of this, right? People stayed and fought, and Glenn Youngkin won in a state where no one thought he could. And the other thing, too, that we forget sometimes is a lot of times we talk about, like, a school board race. And conservatives go in there and win that school board race, and we think, our kids are saved. But you know what? Everyone else's kids are too in that district. People who might have liberal parents who might want that crap, they don't have to get it at school either. And so there's a wider benefit of winning these things, even if they're just local. That's a really important thing to remember on a day like today. And that's my TED Talk.
Okay, thank you. All right, let me tell you about my Patriot Supply. You can't assume that everything in life is always going to be according to plan, especially if you're living in New York or places like that. Much as Stu seems to think that, no, it'll all be okay. The simple truth is he's wrong. Okay? Life throws you curveballs, and then sometimes that curveball comes and hits you right in the face. And if that happens, it can be scary. But don't worry, it's not like natural disasters are happening, or there's an economic downturn, or, a war on the horizon. Any of these things could happen right now. You know it and I know it. And so what are we going to do? Well, you can worry about it, or you could ignore it and not do anything. Or you could just think about it, go, what should I do to prepare? And then order the supplies so you have them, and then not worry about it. Right now, you can save with mypatriotsupply.com. Save $250 off a 3-month emergency food kit.